The retail payments ecosystem changed dramatically over the last couple of years. There are different reasons for that. I would say it's not only that the ecosystem changed actually, it evolved actually, and there are clear reasons. Clear reason is actually that technology improved significantly, so things can be done which would have been completely impossible a few years ago, and the consumers changed their behavior significantly too, because they are using or utilizing on payment methods which were not available a couple of years ago. So this means we were going from bank transfer, correct, or using cash also for the payments, to cards, not quite new of course, but also newer payment methods like e-payments, a-payments, P2P, and similar. What does this mean? This means firstly you have to process rather different and complex transactions, and secondly, where I, for example, was going to an ATM a few years ago to withdraw, let's say, 100 euros or pounds, and do the daily payments for small items, for food and similar things, I generated a single transaction, correct? Nowadays I do all these small payments by using alternative payments methods like my mobile phone, etc. By doing this, I generate instead of one transaction, many transactions. Yeah, could be 10, 15. In addition, more and more people worldwide have access to banking and to payment methods which are not cash. So this means the volume of transactions increased dramatically over the last years, whereas the amounts actually of a single transactions decreased, correct? What does this mean? This means there's a significant problem in processing this data because of volumes, and secondly, because of all the exceptions you generate, correct? We are not living in a perfect world, so there are mistakes are made actually. There are even instances where you have to correct payments because, for example, an authorized amount is not necessarily the same as the actual settlement amount afterwards, correct? So it could be even by intention, doesn't have to be a mistake. Having that in mind, the number of exceptions increased significantly too. Since at the same time the margins or the fees actually for the participants in that transactions decrease constantly too actually, the pressure is increasing, correct? There are more players in the markets, there are new entrants, fees are going down, so a lot of challenges actually to process such transactions. We have with Corona, we have a solution in place for many years, primarily in banks. Corona is a solution which helps our bank to reconcile data and do the exception management in a very efficient, automated way. Many of our clients are banks actually, and many of those banks are also issuers, card issuers and acquirers. So they are part actually of the payments ecosystem. So it was pretty natural for us actually to extend our software solution to cope also with the typical transaction of what we would call alternative payments. So not the traditional one, the alternative ones. And this provides our clients or new clients in this ecosystem with much higher operational control and operational efficiency. which is definitely needed to survive in this market. Yeah, the Corona solution is a modular solution where we supply many different modules for certain different tasks, which we actually productize or customize towards the needs of a certain client, whether it's an acquirer, issuer, or a payment service provider, for example. What we do is actually we're looking into typical use cases for, let's say, as an example, issuers or acquirers, and based on those use cases, means cases or problems we have seen and found with all of them when we were talking to them, we adopted the software especially to deal with those use cases, whether it's the handling of chargebacks. We are not a chargeback processing solution, correct, but we have a solution where we increase the operational control end to end for such kind of transactions, and we are able actually in certain cases to detect root causes which would most likely lead to chargebacks, for example. So we prevent, by using our software, we prevent those exceptions already. An exception could be very costly, correct? To repair an exception is sometimes nowadays more costly than the amount of the transaction. Yeah? Which is a big problem for all the participants in such a transaction or in the ecosystem. So it's reconciling data, setting control points towards actually the transaction, from the initiation till final settlement of such a transactions, and making sure that we detect very early in the transaction or the life cycle of the transactions any problems or potential problems which we correct. Corona is a system which is actually, as I said already, not only trying to prevent exceptions, so prevent costs actually which would be caused by repairing exceptions. It is also helping to automate processes in a way to achieve much higher SDP rates. And on top of that, because there is a limit on the SDP rates you can achieve by that, we even automate or partly automate the exception management process. So this means this increases further the SDP rates for our clients. And so at the end of the day, what our clients achieve by doing this is they definitely increase efficiency in the operations, they minimize costs incurred by dealing with exceptions and losses, and they get much more competitive, correct? Because there are many players in the market now, and there are new entrants, on a monthly basis almost. When it comes to Corona and that market, short term is we deliver out of the box for certain use cases which seem to be a real problem for all the participants in this ecosystem. We provide actually solutions already short term, correct? So this means this might be to a certain extent at certain stages or points at the transaction, correct? So, but what we want to do in future is actually we want to increase the use cases where we can apply our software to, and we want to make sure that we get really 100% full operational control over the whole transaction from initiation to settlement at the end of the day. So this is mid to long term. And for our clients, what would this mean to our clients is actually the incentive for our clients is they definitely increase their competitiveness in the space they operate, because there will be, mid to long term, the players will disappear again too, correct? Because as I said at the beginning, fees are going down, margins are going down, it's more costly to repair transactions, and the value of single transactions were going down too.